Hi, I'm Mike Messier. Welcome to Messier Mantra. We have a great return guest. He is a good friend of mine, and his name is CHRIS ESPER.
Good to be back.
Independent filmmaker, screenwriter.
Yes.
Actor yourself, did some stand-up comedy.
Yep.
And so last episode we talked about a whole bunch of stuff.
Sure.
This episode, I want to talk with you about your process, soup to nuts. How does CHRIS ESPER make a short film? Now, on the last episode, we mentioned a piece called Still Life, and then I know you had a newer one called Please Punish Me.
Yep.
Of the two, maybe we can take one of those and kind of break it down by the process.
Sure.
Which one would you like to talk about?
I'll talk about Please Punish Me. It's the most recent one, and it's also the one where I think I've had the most growth from one film to the next. With Please Punish Me, let's see. So first, the script was originally written by Tom Paolino, who's also a great actor in his own right. And Tom had simply just a 7-page script, or an idea, treatment, if you will. Sent it to me. I really liked it. Had potential. So I said to Tom, I'd like, let's make this.
Right.
But I do want to do a little bit of rewriting on it, and he was cool with that. So then, I sent it to my good friend Rich Camp, who I've been working with for, gosh, I think about 5 years now, maybe 6.
Yes.
And Rich is a very funny writer, very funny guy. And so Rich kind of took the script, he elevated it in its story and elevated the jokes and gave a little more to it. I went from liking it to falling in love with it.
Nice.
I mean, and for me, a script, I have to be in love with a script in order for me to do it. I can't just like it. I have to be in love with it. So then I gave it to my good friend Carusa Michelazzo, who we're a mutual friend with, and she agreed to produce it with me. So she produced it, and then we went about casting, and it was the first time I ever held auditions, and I worked with some new actors I never worked with before, Laurie Bacon being one,
Yep.
Joanna Donofrio, Brad Rhodes. Like those are actors I've never worked with before. I mean, I've worked with Tally Clemens, I've worked with Mark Carter and David Seckel. Like those three guys I've worked with a number of occasions, but those other three I haven't. And so it was good to discover new talent that I hadn't seen before and see who else was out there besides handpicking actors like I used to do.
Right. Well, let's slow down a little bit, because I want this episode, as much as we can, to be informative for those who've never made a film. And maybe to watch in this episode and say, well, they may not know all these actors that we know, but they might want to make their own piece. So let's help them out a little bit. So we start with Tom Paolino's short story, and he basically had it on some type of Microsoft Word document, or was that accurate? Or
it was in script format.
Yeah.
And his version of the script, the main character's name was John, as opposed to Scotty, and it focused on the same subject, but it was a lot shorter, and it was kind of subdued in its comedy. It wasn't as broad as it ended up being, and also. But the central theme was there, the whole idea of doing what you love and not settling for less. And the whole idea that this character feels punished already in society by being in a job he doesn't like. And so he feels in order for him to get validation, he feels he has to be punished for this curse of being overly blessed down a path that he doesn't like.
Right.
And so I identify with that to a degree, the whole idea, because when I graduated from college, I was feeling as though, all right, what am I going to do next? I don't have a job, I don't have any money, what am I supposed to do? So I took a lot of these corporate video jobs, and it was jobs, they paid well, but it wasn't necessarily what I loved. So I was kind of going down that cross path where I was like, okay, when am I going to make movies? When am I going to do what I love already? So I kind of identify with the character in that sense. So then when I gave it to Rich and I would meet up and we would collaborate. He would pitch me some ideas that he would have. He would write a draft. I'd give him my feedback. Tom would give him his feedback. At one point we even had a table read with potential actors that were going to play some of the parts before we started doing auditions. So it was kind of like an audition process for them as well.
Right.
So we had the table read. Then we kind of read out loud the jokes and the whole script basically to kind of get a sense of timing, get a sense of the dialogue, is it believable? and also get a sense of how does the story flow, and that was very helpful for all of us.
So just to break it down a little bit, so you went from the initial kind of concept, bringing, an outside force, in this case Tom Paolino, very great actor and writer. He comes to you, knowing your credibility and your experience as a filmmaker in the same, New England region. So the first step is really someone approaches you.
Yeah.
Then you took that source material, that source script by Tom, bring it to your friend Rich Camp for maybe the second step, which is the second writer.
Exactly.
Then you have the table reads, which is the third script, where you're getting feedback from some local actors, maybe scouting out a little bit of talent, but not really committing anybody. So those are like the first 3 steps.
I would say so, yeah.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah. Yep. And then I think from there, after Rich went back, I guess this would be the 4th step, him rewriting the script and tweaking it based on the feedback. Then once the script is finalized, then we went about with the casting process. And so we had auditions, and we basically just did a whole call throughout Facebook, throughout social media, New England Film, and just said, we're holding auditions. Here are the characters, their descriptions. We would send the actors their sides, like certain parts of the script, for them to read and study. And the actors would come in, and I would have them do it their way. I would give them some direction just to see how well they could take direction and what other spin they could put on the character that maybe I wasn't seeing. And then, we would ask them availability, things of that nature.
Right.
And then we also taped these auditions. So Carusa and I would look back at these auditions. We would watch them and see, okay, who would be our potential actors? And I think we had 2 actors that were potentially going to be Scotty, and we had 3 that were going to be the character Michelle. So I said, all right, so we have these 5 great actors. How are we going to see who's going to be the best one? That's when we did callbacks. So we had...
And these are the male and female leads, and they have very intimate scenes with kind of, sexual bondage type of stuff.
Sure.
Okay, so these... Just to paint the picture, these 2 actors really have that chemistry.
Yeah, exactly.
You could have a great actor and a great actress, but if they have a mismatched style, it's not going to work.
Exactly, and it was also important that, I'll get to that part in a second, but so we had the callbacks, and what we did was we paired the actor, we put them all in pairs. So we had David read with one woman, then we had the other actor read with the other woman, and that basically all 3 women and both men got to read with each other.
Right, round robin type of thing.
Exactly,
Seen all the possibilities.
All the possibilities. Like we found that one pair was funnier than the other. We found that one pair was the better actors of the other pair. So it was very interesting because had we picked differently, the film could have went a totally different direction.
Right.
We had one pair that had the man was funny.
Right.
The girl was a great actress. Then we had one pair, the girl was hilarious, but the guy was a good actor.
Yeah.
We're like, okay, so how do we solve that?
Right.
So that we had to see what these pairs would be like, and that was the best way to do it because we were able to see all the possibilities, who would be best with the other.
And there's issues, and sometimes I'm an actor too, so you don't want to think about it sometimes, but you're like, who looks like the guy who's going to be in this situation going to the bondage club?
Yes.
If it's Tom Cruise coming in off the street, he may not need that situation.
Yes.
If it's an actress who looks, so to say, too much like the girl next door without some type of visual edge.
Yeah, yep, exactly.
She might be,
and we had to be very careful because it's so easy with a film like this to just go for the sexy one.
Yeah.
But the film for me was never about the bondage or about the punishment stuff. That stuff for me was always a metaphorical element to the story where society feels like it's being punished by the system. And that for me was more of a metaphorical thing. I didn't even care about the comedy. I cared more about what was underneath the comedy. Because to me, comedy, and this is what I looked for in the actors, comedy should be played, I think the best comedies are played straight.
Yes.
Because if you play like a drama, what's funny to us shouldn't be funny to the actors. Because once the actors start thinking to themselves, this is so funny, they start laughing, they start playing it very big and very broad, it becomes unbelievable.
It becomes a lampoon of a movie. It becomes a backyard K-Roll syrup movie.
Yeah, exactly. Like and this film was not about that. It was more about what was going on underneath. So the straighter that the actors played, the better it would be for the film, and then the more laughs the audience would get out of it. So So we had to be very careful with how we chose our actors. But we ended up with 2 fantastic people in David Sacco and Joanna Donofrio. And Joanna, ironically, she wanted to be the production designer on the project, and I knew she acted. I never saw what she could do.
Right.
So she said, Chris, I read the script. I really like this. I want to try out for this. I said, go for it. She blew us away.
Nice.
She just blew us away. Like, she had the vulnerability and the look.
Right.
Her eyes are very captivating.
Sure.
And most of the film, most of the scene, she's wearing a mask for her eyes. So her eyes had to be really present in that scene.
Now, for people that want to see this film, and we're going to continue this process, I believe, if I'm correct, April 23rd?
Correct, yeah. It's going to be playing at the Scene Film Arts and Music Festival, which I've been to a number of times. I love that festival. They're not only great local films, but also great films just around the world. They have such great films that always come in. But yes, it will be playing on April 23rd as part of the regional shorts lineup,
right?
Along with your own film, Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
So it's going to be
Come see us, everybody.
Yeah, right.
Come see us.
Yeah.
So Saturday, April 23rd.
7 p.m. I think.
Yeah. It might be 2 p.m., but people can go to the Scene Festival.
Yeah.
Just Google the Scene Festival. We can't give out websites or anything like that, but if people just Google SENE Film Festival, they'll find it.
Yeah, and it's going to be playing at the Columbus Theater.
Historic Columbus Theater, 600 seats. So we need the Seekonk and the world from Vimeo to come and watch our movies.
Yeah, exactly. And I also have 2 music videos playing in the festival as well. Which
that's great.
Yeah, so
with the previous guest of the Mantra.
Aaron Wilson, yeah.
So let's go back to this process, because I really like how we're breaking this down. So going back to it, and just wanted to jump in because people out there who maybe getting the bug a little bit, want to make their own film. So we talk about auditions. The person watching this interview might be, what's an audition? Well, this is when you get a venue. You guys got a great venue, the Artists Exchange in Cranston, Rhode Island, Rolfe Square. I think it's important that a venue like that, where you have free parking, it's not downtown Boston, it's not downtown New York City.
It should be whenever you hold auditions, it should be a venue where everybody's comfortable.
Right.
And there's refreshments, there's a space for people to network, but also for them to be able to go off to the side, read their sides, and do what they need to do in order to prepare.
Right, a green room.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And the Artists Exchange is such a nice venue because they do things for people with mental disabilities.
Yes.
They incorporate these people into their arts programs and their theater shows. So a venue like Artists Exchange, Brooklyn Coffee and Tea House in Providence, other venues of that ilk. So you do your nice audition, and what I liked about your audition is the 2-step process. Because a lot of folks, and I've been part of this situation too, you have your actors come in, they do a cold read with the script, or they have the sides in advance, bing, bing, bang, on camera, that's it. There's no incorporation of what you guys did, which is having the callbacks for the lead roles, and that, I like that almost, I don't want to say octagon, but like 5-person round robin system of playing these lead actors off each other and seeing what works. So now let's jump ahead a little bit. You've cast your actors.
Yes.
You have your producer, you have your screenwriter, your originally story person. We have you at the helm. Once you've cast everybody, what comes next?
I think what comes next is scheduling. I mean, I should also say my crew. I had to get a crew.
Yes.
And I got Mark Phillips, who I've worked with on a number of occasions. He was a cinematographer, and he had also shot still life for me, and he and I worked really well together. This one was challenging but fun because we wanted this to have a totally different look from still life, because still life was black and white.
Right.
But this one was all about color. If it had been black and white, it wouldn't have worked. This is not the kind of film that has to be black and white.
Right.
So, and especially for the Punish Me Palace, as it's called in the film, it had to look totally different from this other world.
Right.
So what I had the actors do, and also my crew, was watch a couple of films as an influence to get an idea as to what I wanted to go for visually and also aesthetically from a thematic standpoint. So the top film, I had them watch two films. I had them watch Office Space for some of the comedy and some of the theme. But my main influence was After Hours by Martin Scorsese.
Wow, that's a good one.
And I say After Hours because much like the story in Please Punish Me, After Hours also has Griffin Dunn as this guy who he's bored at work, he hates his job, there's no adventure in his life.
Right.
So he ends up going on this really weird odyssey in New York City.
Was it Roxanne Arquette?
I think so, yeah.
Roseanne Arquette.
Roseanne Arquette,
yeah,
yes.
Wow.
And he goes on this really strange odyssey throughout the city at night, where he meets all these different colorful characters.
Right.
And that's kind of what I wanted for Please Punish Me. Scotty starts in this mundane, kind of grounded world, but then he ends up in this really off-color, off-kilter kind of world with these strange characters, these really over-the-top receptionist that Mark Carter plays, and
right.
Laurie Bacon is like the head dominatrix of the place.
Yes.
So I really wanted this really almost Eyes Wide Shut even kind of vibe.
I was going to say Eyes Wide Shut.
That's another one. Yeah,
right.
That's another one I told my actors to watch, and so it really helped the actors, helped my crew, and it helped Mark get an idea. Okay, what kind of color palette are we going for? And I worked with Stephanie Castaños as my production designer, and she too came up with some ideas for look, what type of props, and so that was the next step, is prop shopping. We went to save money. We went to a lot of thrift stores where they sold all these things, and it worked out really well. And then of course there was the rehearsal process, which was probably the next step, was rehearsing with the actors. And as I mentioned, I had them in great detail tell me who the characters were. They wrote some biographies as to who the characters were, where they came from, what they were feeling and thinking at the time, and also what they felt prior to the story. Because the one thing I try to stress to the actors is that there's an existence for these people outside of the plot. There's stuff that happened prior, and there's stuff that's going to be happening after. And for a comedy, many would probably think that's a lot of work, but even for a comedy, there should be some depth to it.
We don't want actors, you don't want actors, I'm putting some words in your mouth, but correct me if I'm wrong, but you want actors who are on point, educated, having a good time, but at the same time, this is not slapstick, folks. We want to make a good movie here. And we want to have layers of performance that are interesting to the watcher, and people are like,
And that's not to say there isn't room for campy slapstick. Certainly there is. I mean, I've done campy slapstick before with a film called Steak Knives. I mean, that wasn't about depth. That was just a really funny and fun movie to do.
Right.
But with this was different because I really wanted more out of it.
You wanted some subtleties, some nuances.
Exactly.
Good. So we've gone from your auditions to prepping your crew. And what I really liked what you did here, Chris, was you took your crew and your cast, and you got everybody, it seems, on the same headspace, which is so difficult because everyone's got day jobs or families or kids.
Oh no, that was still a difficult thing to do, to get everyone. All right, did you guys watch the movies?
Right.
Did you guys read this? Did you do this? Did you do that?
Yeah.
Did you show me what dates work for you? That's hard to do. But I mean,
you're getting these one email. Oh, I watched some YouTube clips, and you got to come down as a taskmaster. The hammer's got to fall a little bit, and you say, did you watch the movie?
Yeah.
You're not the YouTube clip, or you didn't read some paragraph on Wikipedia about this.
Right.
You actually, we're not deriding anybody or being negative. It's just the natural inclination of everybody.
Yeah.
Everybody is, to take the easy way out sometimes because we're all rushed for time and we all want our 9 hours of sleep or whatever. Yeah. And, as a director, what I'm seeing that you experience is really you just got to push this thing forward.
Yeah. Exactly.
So now you've got your props. This lady, prop master for the movie, has stepped in. One aspect we didn't talk about is budget. Now I know.
Oh yes.
This is a movie. We don't have to get out exact numbers, but being in the same boat, I know it's very difficult to get any money for these movies. So I'm assuming that you paid some of this out of pocket, or you did some crowdsourcing, or maybe got some private donations. But
yeah, crowdfunding we did for this one. My last film, Still Life, I raised about $500. It was all I really needed for that.
Right.
So for this one, we went a little bit more, and we were able to get $1,000 out of the whole thing. And we did it all through Indiegogo, and we didn't have a video for it. Maybe we should have, but we didn't get a chance to make one.
Yeah.
But with crowdfunding, it's very difficult because you end up begging friends and family.
Right.
So it's kind of hard to and the hard part is trying to break through the herd of other people doing the exact same thing as you are.
Yeah.
So I learned a lot just from doing that Indiegogo campaign. I mean, we made enough money to make the movie, but I think certainly we could have done more.
Yeah.
I would have done it a lot differently now than I would have. I would have do it a lot differently now than I did back then. But it's a live and learn experience. And with crowdfunding, it's very important because you don't only have to break through the herd, but you got to show what do the people donating get out of it?
Right, the incentives, the perks.
Yeah, because I mean, you get the money, sure, but they want something out of it too.
What's so frustrating, Chris, and maybe you agree with this, is that the layman, the civilian, whether it's family or friends or just people you meet at the coffee house.
Yeah.
And then you start talking somehow, hey, I make some independent films. You try to be humble about it, not drop names or anything.
Sure.
And then the person's like, oh yeah, well, I heard something about Kickstarter. And the person telling you, and not, it's not to insult them, but this random hypothetical person always seems to think that this Kickstarter is this magic ticket that you just punch. I'm going to put my movie on Kickstarter, and suddenly people are going to give me $10,000 to be the next Martin Scorsese, and it just doesn't happen that way.
No, it really doesn't. I find the stuff that gets the most donations is a personal cause or something that's for like a tragic event, and that's awesome. That's the right thing to do. I mean, because a movie's just a movie, and you can see a movie anytime, but to help a person through a difficult time, that's something that can't be delayed. With a movie, it's I think for other people, when they see a movie's on Kickstarter, they go, oh, it's just another movie.
Right. It's and to people's credit, they'd rather save the vegan whales in Somalia than Mike and Chris's movie in Rhode Island.
That's totally fair. I get that. I mean, I much rather save a person's life too, or help somebody, than donate to a movie. But if it's a movie that's trying to say something important, or it's a movie that's going to break some new ground in some new way, I'll donate to it. Absolutely.
Right. And a lot of times, like you said, it's friends and family.
Yeah.
So you've gotten this $1,000, and when there's so many aspects, we can go on and on. Maybe we'll have you on another episode to talk more about these aspects. We get to the point where you've got your actors are focused. Your crew is focused. They have these references, after hours, the other source materials, eyes wide shut, Office Space. And now everyone's like, okay. Now here comes, tell me if there's another step, but is it, you're getting to scheduling.
Yes.
Now you can take this Rubik's Cube.
Yeah.
Oh, Sally's got 3 kids who take soccer, and Johnny's got 3 jobs. He's a trash man at night. And he's a male nurse, and he's a psychiatrist for himself, and all these people are doing different things.
Yeah.
And you're like, how the hell am I going to put this together?
No, it's difficult. We used, I think at the time we were using this it's a website called, I think it's called Doodle, and you put in potential times and dates, and then you have the actors and the crew check which ones work for them. So that was one way I did it. Then there's also phone calls, a lot of phone calls.
A lot of begging. Can you just cancel that thing?
Right.
Yeah.
So scheduling was the hard part, and a lot of it we had to do on weekends, just like every Saturday or every other Saturday until it was complete. And I think in total we had 5 scheduled days throughout the month of January of 2014. I want to say 2014, and going into February of that year. And plus, I was doing video work. I was very busy myself. I think 1 week of filming, I was directing 3 projects at once. It was insanity.
And then you helped me the next month.
What's that?
In 2014, I think in March, you were helping me on a project.
That's right. Yeah, I was helping you then the month after. And
crazy.
I know, it was insane. But so then we scheduled it, and then came time to shoot. And shooting got delayed because it was originally going to be in 2013, but I had some scheduling conflicts that I had lost a family member.
Oh.
So it was, so it was, and then the holidays came, so I said, you know what, it's best that we just do it when everybody is freed up.
Right.
So then come January 2014 is when we shot, and shooting in the winter, it's not fun.
No, because then you got old man winter and the snow, and the next thing you know, your Friday night rehearsal gets canceled, and then nobody wants to meet on Saturday, and nobody wants to meet on Sunday. Then you're into the next week, and then you're bumping back other aspects of pre-production.
Oh yeah, and then winter in New England is just, it's horrible.
Right.
So we dealt with a lot of cold weather, and finding locations I neglected to talk about as well. And finding locations, man, that was difficult.
Right.
And because we need a big office and for Scotty to work in. Unfortunately, we couldn't find one. And whenever we did find one, they wanted to charge us an arm and a leg. Yeah. I'm like, yeah, that's 10% of our budget. Can't do that.
Right.
So I opted for going to my family's accountant and just shooting in their office. I mean, it's not really the ideal office I wanted, but I mean, we got a location,
right?
We got an office. That's what's important.
Yeah.
So sometimes and that's the hard part, is you have to compromise your vision every once in a while in order to adapt. And I find that a lot of filmmakers are not willing to adapt because they have this vision in their head.
Right.
But when you're working with little to nothing, you have to learn that, it's not always going to work, and you have to just learn to adapt and make the most of it, the best that you can.
It's either like, do you want to make a movie or not?
Yeah, exactly.
Is bottom line.
Exactly.
And one thing, not to go on too much film like Messier rant, but I will. But you've got people, and it is frustrating, I think, because a lot of folks, whether they're actors or crew members, and people rightfully should get paid as much as possible. But the reality is, if someone's just starting, whether it's a crew or an actor, none of us right now are big names, you know what I mean? So it's just like, you're not going to get all the time your desired pay rate.
Yeah.
And this is a controversial subject because a lot of people will take offense to that.
Sure.
Like, I should, it's like, look, you're not Robert De Niro,
sure.
You're not Tyra Banks.
Yeah.
Fill in your name. You're a person who's coming up like I am, so if you want to be in this movie, roll up your sleeves and help out. If you don't, do something else and no hard feelings. But people get really offended but these same people are getting offended that they're not getting paid a whole lot of money. They're not contributing any money to the project, nor is their name value bringing any money into the project.
It's true, yeah. No, and that's the most difficult part.
Right.
Because again, I mean, it's nice to be paid, yes, but I mean, if you really loved what you did, you wouldn't be doing it for the money first. You'd be doing it because you love the script and you have a passion for the project. I think.
Right.
I mean, when I get paid, it's a rare thing on a movie. When I get paid, and when I do, yeah, it feels great. And of course, I get paid for my business, for my video work. But I mean, that's a totally different ballgame. With doing a movie, you're doing it because it's a passion project.
Right.
And and I feel that the money will eventually come. And when I do work on a film, I do ask for money because I am at the point where I feel I can ask for money, but I understand. I know what it's like. So, you either work on it because you love it, or you just say, yeah, you know what, it's not for me. But I mean, the money should be, in my opinion, kind of a secondary thing. I mean, obviously it can be a first thing, but I mean, the story should be the important thing.
I just opened up a can of Pandora's box with worms, Such a controversial subject because people watching this interview might say, well, what is this, some type of socialist filmmaker? I'm talking about me here.
Yeah.
And I'm not. I'm just saying that for my intake, my part, what I'm saying here is a lot of people do put that money thing first. They don't realize time is short. We've got to make a movie here.
Yeah.
And if you want to be involved, sometimes it's just volunteer work.
Yeah, I mean, and in my opinion, I think everybody should get paid at least something. Even if it's just gas money, I think that little bit, and of course you feed your crew and you feed your cast. As long as you do that and you also provide them with a good quality product in the end, it's worth their while, I think, for the actors and for the crew. But if you can pay them more, yeah, that's great. But I mean, if you can't, at least give them the gas money. It's the least you could do.
Exactly. You do the best you can. CHRIS ESPER, we've run out of time once again. But maybe we'll have you back, talk more about the process of Please Punish Me.
Yeah.
Thanks, Chris.
Thank you.
Thanks for watching Messier Mantra. We'll see you next time. Thank you.